Hello everyone, my name is Alex Shapiro, and today I'll be talking to you about 10 subjects that we went over throughout our time in Mrs. Morris's Business 101 class. And to begin, I'm going to be talking about communication details. Communication is a big part of business, whether you're talking to an employee, a boss, or maybe even interviewing. Next, we're going to be learning about people's colors and what they mean and how to interact with them. To begin, we're going to start with blue. Now, blue people tend to be very intuitive and feeling-based, so it's good to use emotions to interact with them. After that, we have brown. The brown people tend to be very brief and very direct, so this means they like to get things done fast and in order. After that, we have green. Green people tend to be very logical and sequential, and usually detail-oriented, so this means that they are very organized. Lastly, we have red. The red people tend to be very dramatic, yet energetic and exaggerate, so they usually bring the energy to group assignments. The next subject we'll be talking about is retirement accounts. Now, we learned about retirement accounts as a part of Budget Challenge, which I'll be going over in a couple slides. There are two different kinds of retirement accounts, a 401k, which is pre-tax, or 403b, which is post-tax. Learning about retirement accounts really helps us understand how to plan for saving money in our futures. Next, I'm going to be talking about the weekly articles. Weekly articles were a way for us as economic advisors to find situations in our countries that were usually not going very well and find a way how we could help. Now, the overall goal of these articles was to try and get our reasoning to improve the standard of living or quality of life in the country we were assigned. To go more in depth, the standard of living means more of the financial resources available to the citizens, such as healthcare, food, shelter, and transportation. On the other hand, we have more of a quality of life aspect. These are things that make you feel more safe and happy, and is a product of the availability of standards of life. Next, we're going to be going over Budget Challenge, which I mentioned earlier in the project in regards to retirement accounts. Now, Budget Challenge was a way for us to practice budgeting our money and paying bills on time without actually having the real-world stress. This was a very helpful resource because as we leave high school and go into college, we're going to have to be able to manage our money in the real world with paying bills on time. Throughout Budget Challenge, we learned things from Mrs. Morris, such as compensation packages, how to budget our money properly, and how to use a cash flow sheet in Excel. Now we're going to be moving on to the second quarter of the business term. First, I'm going to be talking about Excel and what we learned from Mrs. Morris. Now, Excel is a very important program. Within the program, we learned from Mrs. Morris how to create new columns and rows, how to format correctly, how to generate certain formulas, how to be able to check our auto sums, and also how to put a proper header and change the sheet name. Also, we learned how to graph and create pivot charts. Next, we're going to be talking about the actual Economic Summit Day. Now, the summit was a big project that was anticipated for many months prior. On the actual summit day, my country of Cuba was very successful in trading and getting our long-term development projects. My partner Kendall was very productive and overall understood and incorporated her ideas throughout the day, which made us very successful as a team. Although we did not end up as the #1 team at the end of the summit, we still feel like we had a successful day and overall benefited from the project as a whole. Now, after the Economic Summit in business, we switched over to mainly focusing on how to get a job. And the first subject that I'm going to be talking about within this is resumes. Mrs. Morris taught us how to write a proper resume and cover letter, while including a reference sheet. We were to use our strengths and abilities to make ourselves sound better in our resumes, and include things that would benefit the company that we were applying for. To move on, we're going to be talking about the actual interviews. Now, I feel like this was one of the most beneficial things that we learned in business class. We got to actually do a mock interview and prepare for it like we were going into a real interview in real life. Mrs. Morris taught us a very helpful tip known as the 3 Ps. The first P means to be very polite. The second is professional, and the third is prepared. What she meant by prepared is to always be 5 minutes early, know exactly what to bring, and to not chew gum, as it could be distracting. Now to finish off my presentation, I'm going to be talking about the software we use for our finals, Sway. At first, I was not a very big fan of the software, but once I got the hang of it, I realized it was very helpful and a useful presentation software. Thank you guys for listening to my presentation.